everybody. We're starting the video webinar just a little bit early for you. Give you a chance to sign in, and if you'll read in the chat box, if you don't have it open on your computer, you can open the chat box and Brenda has a message for you, particularly you Texas inspectors, because we may have others that are not from Texas, which you're certainly welcome to this webinar. But we will address a few issues with the Texas inspectors as far as getting their continued education for their what we call the TREC, Texas Real Estate Commission Home Inspector's License. So again, let me just say welcome, and I will tell you that Brenda is sitting on her computer here in the office monitoring this, so we will have a monitor throughout the class to kind of help me with the Q&As. To get started, if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A box, and the chat you can put where Brenda's already started it there. If you open the chat, you'll see she's already has, looks like 2 messages for you already. So we're just waiting on others to join us, and we'll get started promptly at 6 o'clock. Let me just say again, thank you for joining us. I look forward to being able to share this presentation with you, and hopefully we can all learn something together here. All right, we're still waiting on others to join us here. We said we'd start at 6, and we'll go just before 8 o'clock, and we're going and be able to go from there with you guys. So just hang in there with us, and we'll get the thing started here in just about 2 more minutes. Just give everybody a chance to kind of join in. I see somebody says they're not seeing anything in the chat, Bren. And I'll let Brenda answer the chat stuff so that I can kind of keep my mind on the presentation tonight. Don't forget where I'm going. But your questions, make sure you put your questions in the Q&A box. And if you want to chat with Brenda or anyone else that's attending the meeting tonight, you can do it in the chat box. The way you do that, you go down where it says type message here, and right above her, you see a little box that's got blue with white lettering, says host and panelists. Or if you pull down that, you can see anyone else's name that's on the webinar with us, and you can send them a private message. So just a little bit of way the thing works. Again, thank you for joining us, for being with us tonight. I appreciate you taking the time. This presentation was basically planned for our West Texas chapters. After the COVID pandemic and the issues with COVID, I know a lot of our chapters have been having some difficulties getting people back to coming to the live meetings again. So this is just one of our methods we want to try to help all of our members across the state and across the nation as you join with us on these chapter meetings to see what's happening, maybe learn something among ourselves. So it is 6 o'clock, so I'm gonna go ahead and kick this meeting off. So we are in the meeting now, and at this stage, you should be seeing my screen on your computer or smartphone, whatever you're calling in on. It says inspection, framing issues, and it just shows a white screen there with what looks like a wood deck at the very bottom of the picture. So if you're seeing that, you're on the right spot. If not, something's wrong.
Ask them to go ahead and start putting in their track.
Okay, let me keep going. Brenda's stepping ahead of me here. As Texas inspectors, if you are a Texas home inspector, in the chat box, put your license number, your full name, and the city in there for us, please. This is how you will get your 2 hours CE credit for attending this webinar if you attend the entire webinar. The webinar itself will be about 1 hour and 50 minutes or an hour and somewhere like it. It'll be less than 2 complete hours. But if you put that into the chat box for us, we will have your license number and name so we can get you listed on the TREC website for a continued ed for this. It's worth 2 hours of CE credit for you. And what we do need your information there so we can have it in and ready to go on the thing. Now, I will tell you, there will not be any certificates sent out on this. All this will be posted automatically for you. So give us about a week, maybe a little less, we'll have it posted on the TREC website, and you go in and search for your name and license number, and you can see all the credits have been posted for you. So hopefully that'll be a way that you can increase your hours for credit with TREC. And if you're an InterNACHI member also, you can also claim this 2 hours toward your CPI requirements. You know, you have to complete a certain number of hours every year or so to get keep your CPI designation updated. You can use it for that. And any of our education classes with InterNACHI can also be claimed for your ICC code certifications, because we are an ICC code education provider. So again, put your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll monitor those, answer those as best we can. Chat box, put in if you're a Texas inspector, which I'm assuming most of you probably are, put in your TREC license number, your full name, and the city where you're from. That way we can kind of monitor which chapters are participating in this webinar. Okay, well, let's get going. That's enough on the preliminary stuff. I hope that all of you are staying busy, to have a lot of business coming your way. And most of all, I hope that you're staying somewhat cool in this hot weather and not overdoing yourself. So here we go. If you've got questions, be sure and put them in the Q&A for us. We'll try to monitor those things. Little introduction from me. Some of you may not know me. I've been around for a few years. I am currently the TPREIA-InterNACHI Texas Education Director. So I put together a lot of the education classes for our convention each year. My TREC license number is 3740. Had it for a few years. Going on, it's about 29 years now, I think 28, 29 years. Fourth generation builder. I do hold my combination code certs from the International Code Council in building, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing. So I am what they call a combination code inspector. I am a certified Texas Department of Insurance inspector. I do have the certification for FHA, VA, HUD as a certified inspector, and I've got a lot more there. I don't care to list all of them. You've seen a lot of them. I tell people I got more pedigrees than what my dog does, I think. You say, does that help you? I promise you those certifications do help you, and it would be advantageous for you to look at it. Let's look at what your qualifications are to inspect at a pre-drywall inspection. I know there's a lot of new construction going on throughout the state of Texas, and they do need inspections. The builders have a tendency to tell their people buying a home, you don't need an inspection. We have our own inspectors. Well, if you've been around long enough, you know that inspection group that they use, they have a certain amount of items that they inspect, and that builder dictates those items to the inspectors. So if there's a consistent issue coming up that creates a problem for the builder, they just take it and scratch off their list for the inspector and say, don't look at this item anymore. We don't want you to write this on your report. So yes, they do get an inspection. However, it is a very limited inspection. TREC license that Texas home inspectors have doesn't actually qualify you to perform drywall type inspections or pre-pour foundation inspections. The best way that you can equip yourself for doing this type of inspection is by having some type of a construction background and having the International Code Council certifications. That makes you qualified to do these types of inspection. Of course, the training is by far the most advantage that you could ever have. And the International Code Council, I've got the website listed here on the screen. It's www.iccsafe.org. And you can go online and take classes or take them in person, either way you prefer to do it. And why would you want to do that? Well, if you get your code certs, then that's going to validate your knowledge, and it opens up a lot of new avenues for revenue for you. And I say revenue because, like in my area, in the Houston area, the Woodlands requires you to be code certified if you're doing inspections on some of the properties where they've had to pull permits for the Woodlands. Bentwater, for example, a waterfront property up in Conroe or Montgomery, I guess, requires the builders now to have 3 code compliant inspections on each home that they build. And they have to present that to them so they even be able to sell that house. So Yeah, there's a lot of things there, but they also work for your HUD, VA, FHA. Your code search just do so many things for you. And if you really got bored doing home inspections, most municipalities would love to have you if you had your code search, and that would be beneficial for you there too. So, you know, it's not that difficult to get them. It does require a lot of study, a lot of work. The tests are some of the, oh, well, I've been told some of the most difficult ones that you probably ever take, unless you're a good test taker. But the good news is it is an open book test. And basically what they want you to do is be able to find the code item in the code book so that you can back up your understanding of the code whenever you begin to quote a code to a builder. All right, I'm going to show you, I did a little video recently. You'll have to excuse me sometimes. I've got a little hack, it seemed like, in the video. But this was a one I had done for a builder, and when he's allowed me to come back out, I told him I want to come out and video, just walk through just briefly. I'm not going to show you everything I look at in a pre-drywall inspection, but this will give you a concept. And then we're going to go in and go a little bit further into what you look for, show you some illustrations of things that are common found in a pre-drywall. So hold on, this is just a short video, so bear with me and let's see what we got.
Good morning, this is Paul Roebuck with TPREIA-InterNACHI in Texas. And this morning we're going to walk and do a preliminary sampling of what a pre-drywall inspection is. So bear with me, we're going to get going here and see what we can accomplish on this pre-drywall inspection. Okay, as you can see, we're at a brand new construction home. And looking around the outside of it, of course, you're going to be looking at the grading and drainage as we go around. Listen, they had to build a little retention wall around the home. Look at it, you can see there's going to be a brick exterior. One thing you look at, you come around, you want to make sure this moisture barrier is down at the bottom. This flash. The windows, you want to look for the window flashing. See how the tape is ran? This tape starts on the bottom, goes up the sides, and across the top. And that's pretty much, you're going to look the same thing as you walk around at them. On these columns, you want to see the metal down at the bottom. Usually set these columns up off the ground just a little bit to prevent wood decay and damage from occurring over time. Okay, we're gonna walk in.
If the video seems to be lagging for some of you as it is, it may be you have a slow Wi-Fi connection because it's showing up fine on our screen on different computers here in the office. So it may just be how your Wi-Fi may be a little slow. So just bear with us. This will be posted on the InterNACHI webinar sites after this meeting's over with. So you'll be able to go back and rewatch if you need to. Now we'll continue with the video here as soon as I get her going again.
And I see pink, so they've already started the installation, so they get ready to drywall this thing. But let's go and look at some of the framing members. Number one, we've got the water pipe coming in. That's going to be your water shutoff. And then we've got what's called a concrete encased electrode. This metal rebar you see sticking up. I've convinced the builder not to use those. And the reason I've convinced them not to use that, it's in the National Electric Code as a code item, but the code says you can either have a concrete encased electrode or 2 ground rods outside that this builder is going to use, because I have written him up on it several times. The other issue is, while this is in a code for a concrete encased electrode, if you look closely, you can see this rebar is rusty. That's because it's not an approved type of ground conductor. In order for this to be used as a concrete encased electrode, it would have to have and uncoat or a coated rebar, which they're not going to use. This is the same rebar they put in the slab. Coming on down, if you look at this, you see you have an anchor bolt. You have a splice in that bottom sill plate. So there has to be an anchor bolt within 12 inches of the sill plate splice. That was missing. We come over here, look at the windows. You can see the plastic flashing detail. We call that window sill pan flashing. That looks okay, except when you get closer and see the staples in the bottom. That's like drilling a hole in the bottom of a boat. It's going to leak. That cannot be. Coming on down, we'd be looking for anchor bolts. We'd be looking for the placement of the electrical outlets. And you can see on electrical outlets, see how they've got this box sticking out in front of the stud. That's because when they put the drywall up, drywall will be flush with that box. Now you can see they've got the attic pull down stairs opening here. You notice they put the joist hangers on it, and that's required. They need to have it on it. This other joist had to have a joist hanger. You can see they put joist hangers on all these, and that's exactly done right. Now the other thing you want to look for is like in this garage with the overhead door, this span of a garage overhead opening has to have some heavy beams to it. They built their own beam here, it looks like, but you see the studs coming down to the ground. So they've carried this thing and made a continuous load path on it. So that's good. All right, let's walk inside. May have to put a flashlight in on some of this stuff to see where we're going to go on it, but here's your dryer exhaust. You can see how they go up. And then it went out through the roof with it. You can see the roof vent up there. Then they've got the gas connection. They got the water pipe here. So everything there is looking kosher. Have an exhaust fan in the utility room. Okay, let's go on and keep walking. I'm not going to go through everything. I'm just kind of giving you a taste of what an inspection incurs. But here we're looking at water pipes. We got PEX water pipes. But your PVC drain pipes, you can see where the plate's been cut. They have to put a steel plate on top of it, nail plate. And the same thing down here. That prevents the contractors, when they put the drywall up, from penetrating these pipes, which if they penetrate the pipe, you may not see the leak immediately, but eventually you're going to see the leak. And that stage is going to really be a nightmare. When there's gas in the house, they'll always have a gas valve connected with a gauge to it. This one looks like they've already tested it, but there's no pressure to it right now. So that could indicate that it's either has a leak in the gas line or that they've already tested it, just forgot to take the valve off. You can see the kitchen island, drain pipes, water pipes, conduit for the wiring. And if you look across the room, you can see all the I-beam joists. They got them bridged, keep them from twisting. And down the ends like this, when you've got a beam coming across, as you see here where my light is, all that has to have joist hangers. They have put the joist hangers in there, so they have completed that. Now at this stage, coming back along the back, I can't see if there's anchor bolts installed there because they're covering off with insulation at this stage. This is how the bats, baffles, or little black things up by the decking. That's to prevent this insulation from blocking the soffit vents. That's something you should see. It's usually installed when the insulation is. And you can see they've got the wall insulation and these attic sections here done. The rest of it's probably blown in insulation once they've completed it and moved on. You can see the framing, you can see the door header. This guy's done a real good job of heavy header because it's got the roof support and all on it. But I'm gonna walk on. We're gonna try to get through and go on, so my video won't be too long on it. I wanna take you, let's go upstairs. I mean, you kind of should have the concept of what we're looking at on this. This is the fireplace system. He puts in a little electric fireplace that really looks good, built-in glass, no flue pipes needed or chimney flue for that one. You can see he's done a good job on all the joist hangers on the thing. Okay, let's walk upstairs. All right, so you got all the insulation up here already. Why they put all this in the ceiling, I don't know, but that's okay. You see, you're gonna have a bedroom, closet, bathroom. Something else we'll look at, see if we did it. And now, if you look up real close at the ridge board right here at the peak of the roof, you can see that the ends of those rafters extend past the edge of the ridge board. That's improper. It needs to come in and add something to the bottom of that, because the end cuts of the rafters have to be bigger than the ridge board. So we use the same dimension lumber, say a 2x8 or 2x10, and you slice it, cut it at an angle at the ridge. That cut becomes bigger than the ridge board itself. But as you're walking through, you're looking anywhere you see they run a duct like this, the floor has to be sealed, the top has to be sealed. They can block it with anything, plywood, drywall, insulation, any type of material like that. Any of your bracing on this roof has to come down and meet on a support wall. You can see they put this bracing right down on the support wall. That's something you want to look for. The other thing is, when the wires have a hole going through the plate, the insulation guys seal that with fire caulk or foam. That's what they've done here. So those are just some things you look for in a pre-drywall.
All right. Well, I understand we had a little bit of issue with the video there. I do apologize for that. But I had a couple of questions pop up here. Someone asked, would you still write up joist hangers missing in older homes? Well, if you see where a joist hanger is missing, absolutely you write it up. Joist hangers, it gives a support to those structural members. So yeah, if they're missing, write it up. That doesn't mean they're going to put them in, just like any rest of the things we write in our reports. Doesn't mean what we write up, they're going to correct. So yeah, call it out anyway, because it should be there. Let's see. Question says this is a pre-drywall inspection. The home has not been lived in yet. This is not a home inspection. Absolutely, it's not a home inspection. It is a pre-drywall inspection on new construction. So if you look at an older home, that permits have been pulled on for major renovation, 50% or more, yes, if they are installing I-beams. It doesn't matter if they're adding on, if they pull permits, then it should be built to current code. In the state of Texas, we're still under the 2015 International Residential Code for as far as construction goes. Electrical is under the most current National Electric Code. So yeah, write it up. I mean, we'll have things that come up like that you know, you've got to just write it. It doesn't mean they're going to fix it, but as an inspector, you should be the one to write it up. No one's going to come behind you and follow you unless they have another inspector come in and do that. This illustration here just shows you some of the typical names that you'll see in construction that you should familiarize yourself. This seal plate here is on the bottom. We call that a seal plate, but it's also called a bottom plate. So, you know, there's some terminologies that can be changed and used differently, but yet they mean the same thing. Collar beams or collar ties right here at the upper part of the rafters. And if that brace from one rafter to the other across there is up there, it can be called a collar tie or a collar beam. Now, if you go down to the bottom here, you could, you know, you'll have a ceiling joist, and sometimes people call them a rafter tie. So, you know, there's a lot of different things and terminology you hear, but they can all be the same thing. I'm sorry, it backspaced on me. So, you know, it's just a play on words. Just know what you're talking about. And just because someone calls it something else, that's like a purlin brace or a purlin strut. Yeah, it's going to be the same thing. Just depending on where you're at, what terminology they use. Yeah, East Texas, West Texas, Houston, Dallas may all have different terminology, but yet we're talking the same thing. This just talks about, because she gives you a little illustration on it. I want to show you how this goes in. If you notice this stud here, it's at the top plate of his 2-story house, but if you notice it coming on down, it goes all the way down to the foundation. When you're doing what's called a continuous load path, that's what you want to see coming from the top straight down to it. Now this looks like it's probably a different type of framing, but I just show you an illustration what it should be. But you should be familiar with some of the names of these construction titles and what their purposes are. You know, what is a continuous load path? You know, what is a purlin? What's a purlin brace or purlin strut? And, you know, where can these rest upon? Can a purlin brace set on top of a ceiling joist in the attic? You probably have all seen that, where they may set it directly on it, or they may lay a 2x from ceiling joist to ceiling joist and put the purlin brace right on top of it. Is that correct? No, it is not correct. It has to go to a support wall. So, you know, there's some issues there on which way it goes. Here's some more terminology for you as we get on in. You know, you got your king stud on the framing here with your header. The king studs want to go from plate to plate. And then you've got the other one in here with the header sets on it. These are called trimmers. And then, you know, you've got your seal plate, your cripples underneath here. It's just a part of a stud, basically. So, I mean, there's just quite a few little things that you can look at. Now, we talked about the concrete case electrode basically briefly in that video. I think all of us around the state of Texas are seeing this thing installed. I know Wayne Rogers, when he taught electrical classes for us for years now, he told us to write this thing up because the lightning could strike it and cause the foundation to explode or people to get injured that's in the house. Well, while that may still be true, builders really have fought back with us against that big time, and they tell us, no, it's in the code. We're gonna just use it, and they're absolutely right. It is in the code. The concrete case electrode is in the National Electric Code and in the IRC code under the electrical section. However, if you read the National Electric Code, get down into the nitty-gritty of it now, there is a section that says that piece of rebar has to be a coated piece of rebar. Well, I've yet to ever see one that's coated, but that's what is required to be a proper grounding rod material. And every time you see one, it's going to be a regular piece of rebar that they had left over while they did the foundation, getting ready to pour the slab, and they will hook to it. But if you look closely at them, they all rust, and rust does not make a good ground. So this little box that you see here in this video, I'm circling with my mouse. I got that big blue arrow to it. When the drywall's up, this thing will have a blank plate, just like a light switch cover the plate. It'll be a solid plate covering that box open. And if you don't undo those 2 screws or 4 screws that's in it and look inside there, you won't know if it has a concrete case electrode or if it doesn't have. So you're going to miss that one. So if you see a blank plate, by all means, open it up and see. That would be on a finished home or say a final on a brand new construction. But if you're in the framing stage doing pre-drywall inspections, I guarantee you're going to see this. And there should be a ground wire connected to it. And my solution to these people is tell them to have the electrician take that off, disconnect it from this piece of rebar, put me 2 ground rods outside the house. The 2 ground rods are also acceptable. As you see in this illustration, they're acceptable by the National Electric Code, but it has to be certain material. You don't ever see a piece of, well, I can't say never see it. You should never see a piece of rebar driven as a ground rod. You probably will, but it's still an improper type material. So if you see that, write them up, that's improper. Okay, here's another new one for a lot of you guys that may not understand it, but air conditioner refrigerant lines. This is that black line that goes from the condenser unit outside all the way up and into the attic. Now, this line, if you're doing resale homes and in a resale home, you have the AC running, you hear something vibrating in the wall, or the pictures rattling on the wall, or you just hear a lot of noise. This is what causes that. This thing now is required to have vibration dampers installed on this line. What that does, your AC guy is going to say, well, I don't know what a vibration damper is. Well, tell him it's something that makes it stop from shaking. Sometimes you have to use a KISS technique to describe this stuff to them, but a lot of times you can take this, if it's too close to that panel outside, they may have driven holes in it. You may have a leak, so double check that and make sure you don't have nails penetrating this line as you're doing your pre-drywall inspection. But when I write it up for needing to be vibration dampers to it, they can come in, and if they take a 2x4 and lay it vertically across here with flat face facing out, several spots down, they can tighten that up so tight that will not vibrate. And I promise you, your clients will be a lot happier by not having that noise. And usually it's in the master bedroom wall, it seems like, or in the closet. And it can be quite disturbing to some people, but that's, just a quick thing to learn and try to avoid that so your clients will have a happier house to live in. This shows another one. It's straight up. They've got nothing. They don't have straps even. Sometimes they'll take these nylon bands that they use for duct work and strap it around, wrap it around, nail it between the two studs. That doesn't stop it. If you reach over and grab that, just kind of give it a good shake, then you'll know that, hey, this thing's going to make noise as it coolant's blowing through that through the line. So be careful on that one. Watch out. I guarantee you'll make your clients a lot happier by catching that one. Whoops. Okay, bonding. Bonding's a big issue in the code, and it seems to be controversial or misunderstood by a lot of inspectors. But you're in a pre-drywall. I'm sorry, my mouse is doing things that I'm not expecting it to be doing here, so bear with me. What I do? Go back the wrong way. Let's see. Okay, I'll come back to the bonding in a little bit. Anyway, this is your pictures of the attic area. You can see this is the attic access opening that you have my two bottom green arrows at. See anything missing there? Yeah, joist hangers. They have to have the joist hangers on them. If you look where my big blue circle is there, you'll see the ridge board. And if you notice at the bottom of that ridge board, you see the ends of the rafters extending below that ridge board. Well, by having that ridge board is too small. Now, it's not a hard fix for them to go back in and fix this. Basically, what you've got is you've got two rafters coming down and the weight's bearing down the bottom of that rafter. So you need something to support that. Excuse me. A lot of times the builders will take a piece of 2x4, rip it in half, make it a 2x2, and they'll drive it up at the bottom of the ridge board in between the rafters and just nail it up to the ridge. And that certainly would work. I mean, that would be one way of correcting that. But they do need to do something on it. So don't let them slide on that. Of course, as you're looking at the bottom of the decking and all, like through these sections, excuse me, you want to look for the H-clips. A lot of the framers that do the decking and all won't put H-clips in, or what the code called panel edge clips. You won't find the word H-clips in the code, but they're called panel edge clips. They put in as a spacer between the decking to keep it from buckling up as it expands and contracts. And you want to be careful. A lot of builders or the contractor will put an 8-penny nail in there, which spaces it out the same way. They'll leave a little gap. That's all you were looking for, the gap between it. Just a small gap, like maybe a size 8 number 8D nail or something. But the H-clips are prevalent and easier to find if you're looking for. Oh, there's my bonding one again. Okay, I'm not going to touch a mouse while I talk about this. That's your gas line coming from the inside of the house going to the outside meter. Now on this gas line, that green wire you saw connected to that concrete case and case the electrode earlier, this thing should have one connected to it, or a bare number 6 copper wire that goes down this pipe into the outside. You should be able to see it on the outside of the house when the house is finished with a clamp on the pipe just before it connects to the meter. And you should be able to see that. But this is what it'll look like during the pre-drywall stage. And if the wiring is in the house and you don't see a bonding wire connecting that gas line, then that's a deficiency or repair item. You should write up, that builder should fix it. I've done this, I can't tell how many, I'd probably say hundreds of new construction where they didn't bond it. And I have to tell the builder, look, call me back. Let me get back whenever you finish it. I'll verify that you've done it right. But the copper wires are not cheap. So if electricians can get by without putting that in and nobody catch them, then it won't be bonded. So we do need to bond those gas lines. So something else to look for as you go through. Okay, just the illustration here, another place, pre-drywall, no joist hangers. They're missing them. And it's amazing how many times you find joist hangers. But if you're doing pre-drywall, pre-cover type inspections, I promise you, you'll probably find joists that do not have joist hangers installed. Here's another illustration of it. These are not all the same houses. These are some files I went and pulled back out of some houses I've inspected over years and threw in here just so that I could try to show you a little something and try to help you on your pre-drywall inspections. Now, we talk about the ridge board. You can see on the left side of this picture, see how that ridge board sticks down below those rafter ends? That's what we're talking about. We want that ridge board to be bigger than the end cuts of those rafters. And if you look at that circle just to the right of that, you see a metal band going across that. That's some of the wind strapping. That's what helps hold those ridge boards together during a storm, high wind conditions and all. So that's what you want to see happening on that. You can see the different ones there. You see the rafter ties to the joist and the joist rafters tied to the top plates. And you know that gives you the table in the IRC code that you can use on this. Again, this presentation will be on the InterNACHI website under the webinar section here in just a little while. Any of these that we've done or that InterNACHI does, they'll all be posted. So, you know, you can go back and review them at any stage, anytime you want to. Go in and steal your illustrations, whatever you'd like to do on it. This is one illustration I've used a lot whenever I'm out doing inspections, even on used resale homes, new home construction. You can see you got the collar ties on the top, the ceiling joists or rafter ties down at the bottom, and you can see the strong back there on the left. You see on the right-hand side, it says purling bracing. Well, in my opinion, the strong back and purling brace is all part of the purling configuration. But if you look at, follow down the purling brace on either side, you see where it goes down. It's sitting on top of a wall, a support wall. That's what it should be. Even when you're doing a used home or resale home, if that purling is not sitting on a support wall, it is an improper installation. And a lot of times when they get a roof sag on an older home, they'll come in and put a brace on. They'll call it a purling. I've even seen them come up, just nail this to the side of the rafters, go straight down to the ceiling joist, and that's it. Well, that's not the proper way to do it. And, you know, it needs to sit on that support wall. You may not see that during resale if the insulation is real thick. You may not be able to see where it's going unless they've done them totally wrong and laid like a, if they took, if you can see my cursor here, take a 2x4, 2x6, whatever, and laid across the top of these joists and then brought this and set it right on top of those 2x. That would be an improper installation. That is not allowed or approved by code. So, yeah, that would be write them up and see what happens on it. And someone asked, does Texas still use the IRC 2015? Yes, that's what's in the state law right now, is a 2015 IRC code. This was a house that another inspector sent me and asked me if this was correct. It was new construction, and what they had done, they had cut the rafters too short, and they lacked probably 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch or more where the rafter end met the ridge board. So what the builder did, he came back and just cut another piece of scrap 2 by whatever this is, 2 by 10, 2 by 8, and nailed it beside the other rafter. That is not a correct repair on it. When you have a rafter that doesn't meet the ridge board, it's got a big gap, those toenail nails aren't going to hold it. That's not going to do any structural strength or stability to it. They can come in and sister another rafter alongside the one that's cut improperly, but when they do, they need to make it fit the ridge board up tight like this one shows, but this whole board here or here needs to go all the way down and rest on top of a purlin brace. It's got to sit on top of it purlin. So, you know, this little 12-inch piece of board, that doesn't work. I mean, that's just an improper installation. And you'll see it out there because these contractors and subs will do anything they think they can get by with. This is an improper installation. That is not the proper way to do that. Here's one that I did yesterday, and big house. It was 5,000-6,000 foot house, and this one's been going on for a while for me, and I'm just now getting to the pre-drywall stage of it. Let me just tell you that whenever I was doing inspections full time, which I'm no longer doing them full time, when I would do a new construction bid for the people, I would tell them that we need to do at least 3-phase inspections. Now, I'm telling you some trade secrets here, but most of you probably know that, but 3 phases during the construction of it. First would be the pre-pour. That means before the concrete's placed, I go out and look at the foundation, compare it to the plans that the architect or engineer has drawn up, and make sure that it's installed accordingly. And it's amazing what you can find on that. And if you had never taken any of our Post-Tension Institute classes to learn more about foundation, how to inspect those, I strongly encourage you to go to the Post-Tension Institute and take some of their classes and train how to become a certified foundation inspector. That post-tension certification gives you a lot of latitude whenever you go out doing new construction pre-pours. The other thing that I would do is it would be a pre-drywall and then a final. Those would be the 3 minimums that I would suggest that the clients hire me to do. And in doing that, I would quote them a fee for each one of those inspections as a group. If they paid me up front for all 3 inspections, then I would give them like a 10% discount. So, you know, it's you can get your money up front, you'll have 3 inspections scheduled, and you're off to the bank there. So, you know, it works out quite well like that. We've done that for quite a few years, and probably most of my new home inspections, that's the way people liked for it to be. And during that last final inspection, I would also suggest to them that, you know, before your 1-year anniversary is up, give me a call back, let me come back, go through the house again. That way it gives you a chance to live in it, hear any squeaks or see anything that you're concerned about, and we can bring it back up to the builder again. So, you know, just a little trade action there for you. You may or may not want to do that, but that's entirely up to you. It's your business. Now, this was a house I did yesterday. The beam that you see at the bottom of the screen, or where the green arrow is, actually is about 20 feet long, maybe even longer than that. I'm just guesstimating here, looking at the picture. But it joined another big beam that went all the way across the family room area. But if you notice there on the right, they have those eye joists sitting on this one attached with joist hangers. You have probably every 16 inches of that 20-foot beam, you had an eye joist. You had a second story floor on top of this and had the weights of the roof coming down on it. Well, that beam, if you notice, look how they had it attached there. A toe nailed the nails into the big beam and think that was going to hold it. Well, at the bottom of it, they had a couple of 2x6s nailed to the bottom of those beams, and maybe they thought that would hold it up, but that has no structural integrity at all. So I told the builder that he needed to rip off those bottom 2x6s on the bottom of that beam, get me a supersized joist hanger and attach it properly, make those 2 beams sister together with that joist hanger. then I would be a happy camper and put those two 2x6s back up there afterwards. But this was one that was easy to miss if you wasn't looking. And I'm sure the contractor on this, because the framing looked good on this particular home, but the contractor probably meant to go back with a bigger joist hanger, just didn't have it at the time, and absolutely just forgot to go back because everything else looked really good in this house. So just got to look close and be careful what you're doing. Don't get in a hurry. Just go on and report what you find. Now, this is one that we find a lot of times, not only on new construction, but on resale homes in particular. If you look up here where my cursor is across top of this window, that's the Z flashing or cap flash you see here. See, it stopped right here at the window. What they done, what the builder did was come in, put this cap flashing at the top of this window. Well, that's not where it goes. It goes on the top of this board up here. It goes all the way to the edge here, all the way to the other side of that. This right here is an improper way. Now, if they want to run it, I've seen them run it all the way through here, all the way through here on both ends, and then put one on top. I'm okay with that. That's kind of an overkill, but yeah, I'll accept that one personally. But let's see what James Hardy says. This looks like it's a Hardy material, James Hardy product. So let's see. Here's their illustration of it. You don't see this Z flashing or flashing down here where the builder had it on the side of the window. They put it on top, and they have that starter strip. A starter strip goes behind that piece of board here. Anybody got to understand why? Well, as water runs down, water will kick back up in there, and that starter strip stops that from going up any further. But water, it has to, this, see how this sets on top of this piece of siding? Well, this sets on top of that starter strip, so it lets the water shed. And then that cap flashing or Z flashing, whichever way you want to call it, both are appropriate. It'll keep the water getting behind that window. So this is, I can't tell you, probably any house that had siding on it over the years, probably 80% or higher probably were missing the cap flashing or had it installed improperly. So let me stop for a minute. Brenda, do we have any questions?
I don't see any.
None? Okay, guys, if you got questions, throw it in the Q&A box and we'll try to get with you and answer those for you.
Hold on, I do have one.
No stupid questions, guys. I promise you. Nobody's going to laugh or make fun at you. So if you got it, ask, because I assure you others will have that same question, may be afraid to ask. So,
Okay, we have a question.
okay.
Quite a few window manufacturers require flashing above the window frame. I will see both cap flashings installed from time to time.
Yes, I agree. That's what I was saying. Sometimes they'll have them on both places, and I'm okay with that. The actual way that this comes out, the best way, you'll never see it. I've only seen it probably 2 or 3 times in my career, but this flashing come down and they'll cut it and wrap it, fold it where it comes down just a little way here. That's the best way to do it, but you're not ever going to see it like that. So, if you get this, if it goes all the way across, be happy. You're way ahead of what most builders even try to do. So, just look for it. But I promise you, you'll see that wrong if it's there at all.
Okay,
Now, let me
another
just,
question.
okay, hold on a second. Another thing about this, where all is this required? Anywhere where water is going to blow up against the house and run down, it needs to be there. Now, if this top trim board on some of these newer constructions, they'll run these windows right up to the cornice section of the house. So if this is right up next to the cornice, you don't have to have the cap flashing. It's not going to get water there anyway like that. Very little if it does, because this board will butt up to where the overhang of that roof, that cornice section, meets the wall of the house. So you don't have to have that. But if this board is down, say the cornice stops here, and say 6 inches down, anytime like that, 4 inches, 6 inches or more, you have to have the cap flashing. Okay, question, Brent?
Okay, do you have an example of palm bracing in the attic?
No, palm bracing is not a code item. It's not approved. Palm bracing is something that a lot of the contractors have come up with and said, we're going to use a palm brace. What they mean by that is where all the rafters meet. You've got several different rafters and hips meeting in one location at the ridge. They have no way to support that. So what they do, they take a couple of different types, sizes of 2-bys and stack them up on each other, trying to catch the end of all those different rafters coming up at that peak, and then come with a brace off of it. It works. I mean, it's better than nothing, but that's not something that's approved by code. And if you ask me, well, then what is the correct way? I have to tell you, if I were still in the building business and framing, I would do the palm brace as you're talking about. But to me, that's probably the only way that I can see it can work out. That answer the question, Bruce?
It does.
Okay, good question. All right, and many of you have seen where you have a siding on the second story of a house and the bottom floor has bricks. Well, if you have siding up here and these bricks extend out past the siding, in other words, you got, that gap there from the wall back here, and the bricks extend out, and the siding behind where the brick ledge is, that has to have a flashing detail on it. This flashing is more like the Z flashing, goes beneath the siding, overlaps the top of the bricks and overlaps the front of the bricks. That prevents that water. It gives it a watershed. It comes down and runs off. If you don't have this flashing, bricks are not waterproof, and water's going to get behind those bricks in a big way because it's not going to be sealed. Caulking's not going to stop that one. So look for that. I had a house a few years back that I did that it was a big 2-story house and had a gable end on the family room section, which had a 2-story wall in the family room, up to a gable ceiling in the family room and on the outside of the house. Well, they brought the brick up all the way up that 2-story, up in that gable, and went above the roof level by about 2 feet. This was a multi-million-dollar home. The clients hired me for the final inspection on it, and I go out and I start looking at the family room wall, and I have water stains running down. It's on the inside of the wall. I have water stains, and it's going all the way up to the top of the roof. And as I go outside and start looking, trying to figure out, well, what's going on? Well, I've got bricks going all the way up, and the top of that's probably 15 inches wide as far as the brick wall goes. And there was no flashing on top of those bricks. And even though it was a gable section, those bricks are not waterproof. What was happening, water got in behind those bricks, into those bricks, and ran down and got into that house, and it just messed up the whole inside of the house. My clients got so upset whenever I showed it to them because they were spending big bucks for that house, and it was their dream home, and they got out and left. I thought, well, I done made them mad now. They left. I hadn't got paid yet, so I really didn't want to see them leave. But anyway, they got out and got in their car and left. In a little bit, they come back. I said, where did you guys go? Did I upset you? Oh, yeah, you upset us, but it's not you that did it. The builder did. Every other house in the neighborhood, they had put the metal flashing on that I was telling them that they were missing. All the same builder, same subdivision. He had corrected it in all the other houses. Somehow this house, they missed it. So they were very upset about it. I went back to, after a little bit, a couple of months, I was in the same subdivision and went back, and sure enough, the builder had put the metal flashing on top of the bricks and corrected it like it needed to be done. So, you have to look for that stuff. It may seem okay on your bright, sunshiny, hot summer day like we're in right now, but if we get some of those winds and rains and bad weather that we get around the state, that'll show itself. You don't want to be the one that missed it, because they're paying you to be the professional inspector and protect them against their builder. So be careful. Here's another one that we see all the time that's not installed: kickout flashing. Kickout flashing, you come down a side wall. If that wall continues and that edge here, the roof turns here, you have to have kickout flashing. This piece of kickout flashing right here kicks that water away from that wall is what it's doing. Otherwise, you'll get water coming down that wall, and you see the wall stained. Older homes that'll be stained big time. New ones not so bad because they hadn't took effect yet. But my son has been a builder over the years, and he was putting on some roofs, and he went to the roofing supply house and was going to buy kickout because he worked with me as an inspector for about 14 years, so he knew what the importance of kickout flashing was. So he went to get it, so they put on his house they were re-roofing, and none of the roofing supply houses had kickout flashing. So, you know, it's out there, but sometimes you got to look for it. So some of the builders don't know what it is. A lot of the roofers don't care. You know, they're going to get paid whether they put a piece of kickout on or not, but they'll have to come back and reinstall it. But that can be installed even on a resale home or a brand new roof. If they forget it, they can come back and put it on. So don't let that slide, kickout flashing. Now, here's something that's been out for a few years now, probably the last, I don't know, last 10 years of code, I'd say, in the mechanical code. This is a dryer exhaust. You know, what they're doing, they're putting these little tub things in, raising this dryer vent pipe up. Sometimes they put it way up on the wall, 3 or 4 feet. They're trying to shorten that length of dryer vent pipe, which I can't blame them for it because it makes the dryer work better. But in this one, did you know that dryers now are required to have a dryer label? That label has to identify the length of that pipe and how many 45s or 90-degree elbows that pipe has. And it has to be permanently affixed to this dryer vent where as inspectors, we can come by and we can see it and know exactly how long that dryer vent is, if it's going to function as it should. Any of you seeing those out there? I mean, it got to be such a thing here around Houston that when we see one, we put it on our Facebook page and say, hey, it does exist. So, you know, I'll show you what a picture looks like, and you feel free to steal this picture, take your phone and take a picture of the thing or screenshot it. This is what they look like. The air conditioning contractors do the ducts, and this is what this thing is. They have to come in and write this in, how long it is. This is a mandated by the International Mechanical Code. This gives them the code section by the IRC Mechanical Code, and it cannot be removed to deface this placard. It has to be installed on all new construction. And like I said, that's been out probably now for about 10 years or so. So if you're not seeing those, you're missing it, guys. Write it up. You know, what I found over my career of doing inspections is that as inspectors, we were educators for the subcontractors. These guys, they take very little continued ed. They don't keep up with the code. They just do what they want to do. And if Bubba taught them how to do it, then it's got to be right, because Bubba was a good contractor. So write these things up. If you don't see it, then write them up and put them on there. I see a question here. Quite a few window manufacturers require flashing above the window frame.
We did that long ago.
Oh, we already did? Okay, sorry. I thought I got one there. Brenda's still ahead of me. All right, let's see here. Where am I at? Okay, here's another picture of joist hangers missing. We've got a bunch of them missing. And, you know, it's just something that you'll see quite often. I promise you, as you look out doing these pre-cover inspections, joist hangers probably going to be on your list every time. I can tell you on my pre-drywall inspection list, on my little template I put together as a Word doc, I've got several things listed there. Joist hangers is one of them. It's going to be missing. I put the code in as a reference for the joist hangers. Anchor bolts will be another one. Nail plate protections will be another one. There's just so many. That concrete encased electrode, I see it so often, it's in there. So a lot of this thing, once you've done enough of these, it's just like doing home inspections. Some of it becomes redundant. You see it over and over and over and over again. So, you know, it's just, you'll see them. So just get used to looking for them. The pre-drywall inspections, you know, only bad thing about it is you don't have any air conditioning. And in these hot days, it gets to be bad.
I have 2 questions from the prior slide. One is, so the dryer vent label has to state how many 45s and 90s are in the line?
It will state how many feet. That label, let me go back to it. That label that you saw there will actually just show the length, the total length. It says the net equivalent length of dryer duct from this location, blank feet. Now, the contractor is supposed to take in these codes. If you look them up, tells you, and this has been a code for as long as I can remember, for every 45-degree elbow, we deduct 2.5 feet from that dryer duct length. And if it's a 90-degree, you deduct 5 feet. So if your dryer duct length can be, let's just say the old standard was 20 feet. If for every 45, you take off 2.5 and 5 feet for the 90. So it, you know, just depends, but that he's supposed to calculate that out and put in what the actual feet with those exclusions or deductions are in this label. So you won't have that, because once the wall's covered up, you can't tell how many elbows it has, if they're 90s or 45s or what. I've seen some that look like they follow the snake, making curves around this and that and yonder. And by the time they get through, they got more elbows than they got pipe, and that dryer is never going to work right. So yes, that's where that number of feet comes in play. Good question.
I have two other questions, and it says, so who do you recommend to install a sticker for the dryer vent?
Air conditioning contractor. Air conditioning contractors in the state of Texas are licensed by Texas, and they're required to meet the minimum building code. This is a minimum building code. Any code item that you have are minimum building codes. And you know, if they don't build to those minimums that we offer, that's what building codes are. Again, just minimum codes. They can supersede those and do more, but they can't do less than. So if they can't even meet the minimum code, what do you think that makes them? I tell them they're a substandard contractor or builder. They don't like that terminology, so I try not to use that often, but between you and me as inspectors, that's what that is. They're substandard.
Okay, another question is, the dryer duct label only required per IRC when the exhaust equivalent length exceeds 35 foot. Label shall be affixed within 6 feet of the duct connection. I'm going to say that's probably an observation.
Okay, yep, the dryer vent, I'm not sure about that 35 foot. I'd have to double check that myself, but these are the codes. If you want to Google it and see it, it's there. The 35 foot length, I want to think that's probably just a straight piece of pipe, which, yeah, most dryers today make and blow it out. I know they've come out with some that says 60 feet is okay if the dryer manufacturer says it's okay, but it gets into more specifics. But this is something that if a dryer vent, in my opinion, is not short and sweet from the back of the dryer to the outside wall, maybe 8-10 inches, not feet. If it's not short and sweet like that, the longer that pipe is, the less that dryer is going to function as intended.
Okay, and that is there. And it says, do you ever mention the fungal growth mildew on the lumber that got wet during construction? An example would be in the last joist hanger picture you showed.
Yeah, I believe it's on the screen now. You're talking about right here. Sometimes I do, but not always. I mean, when you're around construction sites, this stuff comes up all the time. I mean, if I see a lot of this excessive, then I'll recommend that they need to have it cleaned and treated. But a lot of times it may even turn that way after the house is in the framing stage, the dry stage, and you know, water got in through a roof leak or something, and it can still do that. So I mean, you may call it out, then again, you may miss it and not get it. So yeah, it doesn't hurt to call it out. It's a good thing to do.
Okay, it is 35 feet. Okay.
Okay, anchor bolts again. Here you've got the bottom plate. Bottom plate's always going to be treated wood, by the way, treated 2x4 or 2x6 is whatever the wall is going to be. But within 12 inches of that cut right there with the anchor bolt, with the seals plates cut, within 12 inches there has to be another anchor bolt. They come in, now you can't use the redhead shots where they shoot a 16 penny nail or whatever down through there. That doesn't work on the outside walls. They have to drill it and put in an anchor bolt as epoxied into that concrete and with a nut and a washer on top of it. Now, if you look at this one, I don't see a washer. These things have to have a nut and a washer on them to hold that plate down. I've actually seen them do new construction where they don't even have anchor bolts in the concrete. These are placed at the time the concrete is finished off before it dries. These things go down and they're about 8 inches long, go down and make a J on the end to give them strength so it doesn't pull out of that concrete as there, you know, as any wind or anything will pull up on bottom plate there.
Is that piece of wood acceptable?
This piece of wood here, you see where it's got bark on it? Yes, that would be acceptable. I mean, new construction, that's one that most new home builder or new home buyers have never seen a house be built before. They'll get upset with little things like this. Tree bark still left on a piece of wood. They have to understand this stuff, all this lumber comes from the forest. They have trees, they have tree bark on them. That's not going to hurt anything. So no, I don't make an issue out of it. Homeowners do. That's our job to hold their hand and kind of get them through, to let them know that, hey, it's okay, guys. Just hang in there. That's not going to hurt anything. You're not going to see it once the house is done.
A question?
Now, okay.
Why would the sill plate need to be treated and the exterior siding not be?
Good question. Sill plate's always been required to be treated. It actually has a piece of foam or felt paper underneath the sill plate, separated from the concrete. But this has to be treated because we don't want to rot out, because that piece of wood is holding all this stuff to the foundation. So it's actually an anchor for the whole house. So it's holding it down, but it has to be treated. The siding on the outside depends on the type of material. You know, James Hardy or LP siding says they have a 50-year warranty on the thing. I don't know who's going to be at 50 years to go back and say, hey, my house didn't last but 49 and a half and the siding fell apart. But we've all known about Masonite. I'm sure at one time it probably had a long time warranty on it. And we found out Masonite really didn't work worth a flip. So yeah, we may find out something about Hardy and LP smart siding before the days are over with for some of you. Here's where the builder's inspector came in and he's marked it where you see my green arrows and these red dots. I didn't do these red dots. I did not write bolt. That's where the builders or his superintendent or his inspector came in and tagged it, because they have to have an anchor bolt. If you don't see them, they need to be there. I always take a picture of the area, put an arrow on like this and say anchor bolt's missing. And I'll try to identify it on my report as to the location, just so they'll know it. But I don't personally use spray paint. Some inspectors do. I don't want to be the one that they say, we were actually going to stain that concrete floor till you painted on the thing. And now we want you to do something to make it right. I don't want to be the one to do that. So I don't use the spray paint. Some will use a magic marker and something like that to mark it like that. You know, you can use tape. Tape's probably going to fall off, but it's just, you know, it's whatever you want to do on the thing. If you're going to use spray paint, I suggest you ask the builder, is it okay, Mr. Builder, if I put spray paint? He's probably going to tell you no. So I'd save you money on buying spray paint. This is on the left here. I get asked all the time, you know, I get a call, says, Paul, this house doesn't have any anchor bolts. Really? Well, no, they sent me a picture and this is what you see, 2 metal straps. Well, what this is a metal anchor. These are also allowed. This thing goes down. It's a long strap, goes down into concrete and comes up. And once they put the plate down, they fold these over and nail it to the bottom plate. Either or, this or the anchor bolts are acceptable in the code. Both of them will do. Now, if you notice here again, this plate coming down, you see this joint? That's a splice in the plate. And what did we say it had to have? Within 12 inches of this splice, this is more than 12 inches. And on this other side, I don't know where it went. I don't see it with my picture. I'm covered over with Q&A in the chat box. But what the builders like to do, or the framers, I should say, they take on this and put a 2x on top of the plate in between the studs and nail it. You can see a bunch of nails. Well, that's not an approved means of an anchor. So when I write these things up, just like you see an arrow here, an anchor bolt missing, I'll put that in my report and put me an anchor bolt right there. And they could drill through both of them and go down. That's fine. But, you know, just have to use a longer bolt on it. But, you know, it's okay. If they want to do that, I got an anchor, I'll let that go. Otherwise, pull this board off, drill me an anchor like it's supposed to be. But this is a common practice And it has been as long as I can remember. I probably did it myself whenever we were building, but it's not in the code. This is what your anchor bolts look like. So they go down here, they make a little J on the end of it or a little L. They hold down like that. So that's what they should look like. This is out of the 2003 code check. So this is not a recent picture, but that's still the same. The hold downs, they'll use these, but these things are a lot longer. They go down into the footings. They're for like you got a short wall section where the garage door has 2 feet on one side or something. They'll anchor these things down. Depending on the high wind conditions and stuff where the house has been built, but they will go in and work on that and make it just a lot more anchored to the foundation, which is fine.
Question,
Okay.
can they put a J bolt after the concrete is poured?
No, that concrete J bolt, anchor bolts put in when the concrete's still wet. I mean, they're troweling it, making it smooth as they can, but that J bolt, they'll go in and stick it down in that wet cement and then smooth back up over it. That's why a lot of times when you're out at these job sites, if you see they have a doorway opening and you've got a J bolt sticking up right in the middle of the door, that's because the concrete guys don't measure or look at the plans to say, hey, this is where a door's going to be. They're just coming in, putting those anchor bolts ever so often, and that's it. That's their job. You know, in construction, you'll find that one subcontractor doesn't care about the other subcontractor, and the last person in line, he may mess up everybody else before him doing his job so he can get paid, but they don't care about the other guys. And quite frankly, they don't want to know. So, you know, it happens, but you know, an extra J bolt sticking up somewhere, they can cut it off if they don't want it in there. But no, it has to be put in at the time of the pour. Like I said, they can come back in and drill through the plate into the concrete and with a drill bit, and then take the anchor bolt, put it down there. It won't be a J bolt like that. It'll just be a straight bolt, but they'll put it down there with epoxy and actually make it adhere to the concrete, and then put a nut and a washer on top of it. So they can come back and do them. So very, very easily to be done. This is a picture here. You see, you got plumbing pipes, you got wiring back here, but they cut the plate because they had a conduit here for the plumbing, and they didn't want to cut around it for the plate, I guess. But this needs to have a plate, a steel plate going all the way across this, so we don't drive a nail through it or screw through it, anything like that. And you got to not only watch what's on the interior of the walls, you got to look at these outside walls. Sometimes this PEX pipe will be run right next to the siding OSB board, and they'll staple that stuff in, nail it up, and you'll have a penetration of pipe. So when you're doing this pre-cover like this, usually the water lines will be pressured, and you can tell if there's been a leak or something. It'll show up.
Okay, there's another question.
Okay.
Should the foam or plastic that goes between the sill plate and foundation be present on all or only exterior wall seals?
That's a good question. Only on the exterior. Only on the exterior. Now, while you talk about that, this black that you see here, usually this is a black poly. They can use felt paper, they can use whatever. Usually it's black poly is what we're finding today. I think it's just a cost feature of the material. But this is what I showed you on the outside foundation. And we first got started with a presentation where the brick ledge was, and where the corners, it was missing, the outside corners missing this plastic. This is the plastic, goes up about 10, 12 inches on the stud, and then goes down and it rolls outward. That's where the bricks sit on top of this on the outside of the wall. So that's what separates the bricks from the concrete, because the concrete slab and the bricks or stone or whatever will expand and contract at a different ratio, and it can cause those corners to pop. That's what, a lot of times you see that corner pop, that's what's happened. You don't have the plastic underneath it. But yeah, no, it's a good question. And yeah, that's foam can go underneath here, or the felt paper, either one's fine on it. But yeah, it just goes under the outside walls. And speaking of the anchor bolts, Anchor bolts, if I didn't say already, they only go on the outside perimeter walls. They don't go on the interior walls. The interior walls, they do shoot them down with the red heads or some type of anchor like that. Okay, metal plates required. Anytime you got pipe like here, you got to have a metal 16 gauge steel strap. There's a lot of different material that you need on that. You see the J bolts or anchor bolts here. So there's, anytime there's a pipe, a wire, anything that can be penetrated and damaged with a nail or drywall screw, however they're attaching to drywall, it has to have some type of protection to keep that pipe or wire from being penetrated and cause damage. Now, I've had some inspectors ask me, well, do we put a nail plate on the black iron gas pipe to protect it? No, I don't think you're going to drive a nail through that black iron pipe. So no, black iron pipe, I think you're okay without the nail plate on it. Okay, attic catwalks. This is part all of us love, especially this time of year in these hot Texas attics. Does this one look like it would be okay? I mean, what does the code tell us and our training tell us about a catwalk? It's got to be solid, unobstructed. Look at this thing. They kind of built it up here. Look like they've nailed it to some braces and to some of the rafters. Yeah, that's what they've done here. See, they've elevated this catwalk, but this is not solid. And you got some over here, so I don't know if this would be considered obstruction. I don't know where the equipment is in that particular attic, but anyway, attics are dangerous, folks. And for those of you that like to crawl around like a cat in the attic just to get from the access opening to the other end to see what's there, you're taking your own life and your own financial responsibilities in your own hands, because one slip, you step through the ceiling. You're lucky you just have to do a drywall repair, paint job, and all this stuff. But if you fall through and break a leg, arm, or your back, or worse, then it could end your career as an inspector, plus jeopardize your family's finances. So I encourage you to please be careful. The Texas regulations only require you to walk on a safe walkway. You don't have to get around the whole attic. Get you a good bright flashlight, shine it back in there, see the best you can, and let it go from there. I mean, just tell them I cannot see all your attic. That's all that TREC requires. If you can't see all of it, you have to describe what you can't see also. This talks about the headrooms, dictates the distance from the access opening to the appliance. The day there has to be a light up there, you need to have a cover similar to what this is on it, showing what's up there. The other thing, there's got to be a light switch that's at the top or before you enter the attic. You don't want to have to walk into the attic and start looking for a light switch. You should be able to turn it on before you actually enter the attic space. There needs to be a receptacle up there within 25 feet of that appliance. The other thing is that opening, and I've had inspector call and say, Paul, I have an attic access opening. I can't fit through the opening to get into the attic. And I do have equipment, furnace, water heater, all this stuff still in the attic. Well, then guys, that's a screw up, because that attic access has to be big enough to get the largest piece of the equipment out of that attic. So when you see something like that, just look at the equipment. And if you can't get that equipment through that hole or through that opening, then it's not going to work. So I know I've seen some of these pull down attic stairs that are about 18 inches wide. Most of the attic equipment ain't going to fit through that 18 inches. Take a 40-gallon water heater, you're not going to get it through that 18 inches. So when that thing goes out, your homeowner is going to have to put in new attic access to be able to do that. Now, also, when you get in that attic, if you have to go over here and crawl over the top of this air handler to get to the water heater that's back here, this would be obstruction. That is the wrong thing to do. It. You have to write it up. You can't get to it. If you have to crawl across this, get to the other side of that unit to be able to see the burner system and all on this furnace, then that's an improper installation. They put it in backwards. And believe me, I have found that many a time where they turn them backwards. usually when they do, they shove it up against the eave of the roof or the slope of the roof where you can't have to crawl on your belly to get to it. Well, that's an improper installation. That AC guy should have had a good swift kick back in the backside and be told, don't do that. Go back and fix it like it should be. So there's some things you need to look at. But another important thing you'll do in these inspections, look at these duct runs. These things, sharp bends, these straps bend so tight where the ducts are pinched off. It's kind of like cutting off your airflow. Those are all wrong. I mean, we need to not let those things slide because that definitely affects the comfort of the house for your client. Another thing I want to just point out to you, I threw this in, is usually won't see this in a pre-drywall inspection, but attic pull down stairs, I always like to caution you on these things. When you open one of these things up, make sure that you can open it up without dropping and breaking something. If you have a wood floor or a floor that can be scarred or damaged, make sure you put something underneath these legs to rest it on so you don't damage the floor. Somebody said it wasn't like that before you got here. But not only that, before you ever step foot on this ladder, shine your light up there and see how this thing is attached. If you see screw heads, it's improper. If you see nail heads that look like finished nails, very little heads, that whole thing could come down with you. Drywall screws, any type of screws can break, they're brittle. The whole thing can collapse with you on it. And we have had inspectors where that has happened. What you want to see is 16 penny nail heads, 4 here, 2 on each end, or you see a lag bolt head. A lag bolt head is one that you'll have to have a socket or a wrench to install or uninstall the screws. Always check that. Check your steps, make sure they haven't been modified by the homeowner, that they've broken. They decided, I can fix this myself. I don't need to put a new ladder in. Be careful because they will certainly fall off, and they're dangerous. You don't want to get hurt on those things, so please be careful on them. This is that corner I was talking about. See this black plastic? Remember a while ago from the inside of the house, I showed where this went up about this high on the inside, come down and wrap back over that slab. Well, this is where I'm talking about. If that plastic's not pulled this way and a piece cut and put on this corner, then once the bricks or stones are installed, it's going to pop this corner. It'll cause it, and that's what you see a lot of times on resale homes. You'll see that corner, little bit, big bit, whatever, popped off because they didn't straighten this plastic out. And it's just something we catch during the pre-cover stage so that we can prevent that from causing issues down the road. Okay, I hear a lot about grading and drainage, and I apologize for this slide. I tried to make it large enough to fit on here. It came out a little blurred on it, but if you got a brick veneer wall or stone, from the bottom of those stones to the ground level, you want to have at least 4 inches. That's what the minimum building code has been for as long as I've been in this business, 4 inches. That's under masonry products, 4 inches. And then this ground has to slope out. The first 10 feet should slope 6 inches coming out. So you can see if this was level, you can see how the ground should slope. That's to allow for drainage. You want to get the water away from the house. This allows for, you see termite tubes. You can also prevent water getting up and into this thing. Now, if you have hardy siding or LP siding, they require 6 inches from the bottom of that siding to the ground, where masonry products such as brick and stone is 4, but anything else is going to be 6 inches. And if you do an inspection, I got hardy board siding on the house, I always look underneath that bottom board, make sure that little starter strip's there. Again, if that starter strip's not there, that water can turn up and go underneath that siding. This starter strip basically is it's like this next piece laps over the top of this piece of siding and so on. This piece laps over that starter strip, kicks that water out. If you don't have that starter strip, the water doesn't kick out, it kicks under. So be careful on that. Grade drainage, I know most of you probably have that illustration to show where the swells are. This is on an interior lot. We want to see it. Tell people it's like a horseshoe around the house. It all goes out to the street. Depending on the lot size, lot type, If it's a corner lot, if it's got a creek behind it or a canal behind the house, it can drain different directions. So, just depending on which way it goes, but the drainage is very important. I know some of our West Texas chapters, they tell me that the builders build their their yard right up to the bottom of the bricks. Sometimes they cover that first course of the bricks. And they say that's just how they build it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, write them up for it, give them a code reference on the thing and tell them that is just wrong. If you're in the termite business, that's probably real good for your business, but for everything else, that's wrong. Sometimes, like I said before, we inspectors are teaching the contractors how to build properly. So keep stabbing at them. You'll get them. Eventually, they'll start doing it. If you write up enough and they got to come back in and regrade that yard, it won't take but a few times. They're going to say, hey, we're not going to do that mistake again. That inspector's going to nail me again. So keep it up, spread the word to all your buddies out there and let them go on and get this drainage done correctly. All right, this is one that comes up all the time. The correct way to install a sediment trap. Now, I get inspectors all the time saying, no, all it's got to do is the gas has got to turn. Yep, it's got to turn. You're right. That's what the code says, it's got to turn. But I challenge you to pull me up any of the model building code, International Plumbing Code, International Residential Code, International Gas Code, any of them. And this same illustration, you're going to see this illustration in every one of the codes, how this. We call this section right here at the bottom where it says nipple and end cap, that section there is called a sediment trap. What makes it a sediment trap is as gas supply feeds down into this trap, it traps the sediment. The gas has to turn, it turns here. What happens is trash, moisture, debris is heavier than gas, so it goes this way, it goes down into that, hence sediment trap, and the gas turns. Now, I've had inspectors tell me you can't do that on a horizontal furnace. Yes, you can. I've had them tell me you can't put that on a tankless water heater. Yes, you can. And I've had them tell me you can't put it on generators. Yes, you can. And I've got all three of those on my house. Every one of them set just like this. Now, you'll have plumbers. Master plumbers will sit and argue with you. They'll tell you, no, that's not how we do it. Well, Mr. Plumber, I hate to tell you this, but if that's not how you do it, then you probably have been doing it wrong all the time. And, sometimes, again, we have to teach the contractors the proper way of doing things. So steal this illustration, go Google it, get your own illustration of it. But this is what it should look like. And if you just stop and put a little of your own private personal thinking about it, sediment. What is sediment? Sediment is trash. We want the trash to fall down into that trap. We want to trap the sediment. And the lighter gas will turn and go the other direction. But the sediment will fall down. That's why you got the little particles in it. That's sediment falling down. Now, this little piece here called a nipple, I've seen them anywhere from 2 inches to probably 12 inches long. Is there a code for that? No, there's no restrictions on the length of this or the minimum length of that. You can use any size you want. I would say an inch or two would be sufficient, but depending on what the plumber's got on his truck, he doesn't want to put new threads on a piece of pipe to do it. So they'll put anything in there. But this cap is designed to be unscrewed periodically. And who knows what periodically means? I think it means never, from what I've always seen, and clean out the sediment, trap out that gas line. I have yet to know anyone that's even said, yeah, I cleaned that out once. Really? So, if you want something to do in your house, go clean out your sediment trap. Be a first.
Okay, I have a couple of questions here. Is a sediment trap and a drip leg needed?
Yes.
Is there a minimum length of the trap pipe on the sediment trap? And I think you
I just answered that one.
And then kind of going back to the foam plastic that goes up between the sill plate and the foundation. Someone said I would also mention the exposed OSB at the base of the Tyvek. And then someone else asked, what about flashing under the siding at the slab?
Well, I don't think you're going to see flashing on that because of the cost of the material. They just don't do it. The flashing itself is that black plastic I showed in a couple of pictures that we showed you. That is the flashing that goes down there. The siding should lap on the outside of the foundation grade beam enough to kick that water as it runs down the siding away from the slab. So I don't think you really need any flashing down there. Now, if you don't have a kick out, that little starter strip underneath the siding, then it could cause some water intrusion. But yeah, it's that's just the way it is. I mean, that's all I can tell you.
Okay, another question, and I think Robert Skinner has answered it, but it's, does the drip leg need to be immediately before the appliance? Robert said as close as possible to the inlet.
Yes, absolutely, Robert. I agree with you. Thanks for answering that. Yeah, someone said something about the not a settlement trap. It was what's the other one? My mind's blank. Drip leg. The drip leg. A lot of people up in the northern part of the state, the northern part of the states, United States, have to use that instead of, and plus the settlement trap. But the drip leg, if they come from up north, a plumber, they'll know more what a drip leg is rather than a settlement trap. Drip legs are usually at a different location where the gas comes into the house, not where it goes into the appliance. So basically they look the same. They function pretty much the same. They're just installed in a different location. But this is what you see at the furnace, gas furnace and gas water heaters. You should see a settlement trap. But it's easy. I'm telling you guys, even as many of these as I've done and many of these that I've taught across the country on teaching these things, I will look at one time that's put in wrong, and I mean, it'd be so close to being right till I think, that looks okay. Then I have to stop and think. And the way that I remember it, maybe it'll help you remember it, gas has to flow directly into that trap. Everything else you can figure out, but everything else has to flow into that trap. Then here at this T, it can turn. But typically you'll see the gas coming in over here, coming this direction. Well, that's the wrong way. It's got to flow into that trap because the settlements are going to be heavier than the gas, and it has to fall into the trap. If it comes in this other way, settlement, you might get some of it, but it's going to turn, you're going to blow it out. So some of you're going to miss. It's more important, in my own opinion, on a water heater, tank water heater, than it is on the furnace, because tank water heaters, I've actually seen the pilot lights get put out with this trash settlement being caught up in the pilot and blowing it out. So yeah, it's very important to have that thing. Every gas, I don't know why it's doing that. Every gas water heater and gas furnace should have a settlement trap on it. That answer the questions?
That did.
Okay, good questions, guy. All right, here's one that a builder gave to me. He said, Paul, I said, I got to share your video. I said, can I use it? He said, yes. So I'm going to share this video with you. I want you to see this. This is just real short, but it's showing you how roofers put on a roof. First, I want you to look at this picture closely. Look how steep that roof is. If you notice, there's ropes coming across here to hold these guys up, and these big pieces of foam, they set on those things because the roof gets hot, but that also keeps them from sliding. But some of these guys are like monkeys, man. They can walk on anything. But notice how this was carrying up the shingles. He didn't have the truck with the belt that they put them all on a ridge and waited for the roofers to get there. They're carrying them up. But watch how this guy does that in this video. He's got the shingles on his back and he's pulling that rope. Now, that's not a job that I want to do. That's quite a little load there. All right, guys. Well, we're getting to the point of ending the presentation here in a couple more slides. So I hope I've convinced you that when you do a pre-drywall inspection, you're actually looking at a lot of things, man. It covers so many things, from the foundation to the framing to the electrical to the plumbing to the HVAC system to the ventilation. I mean, it's just so many things you're looking at. I mean, as home inspectors, we're used to going into a house and looking at everything. We walk in a room, we're analyzing that entire room and every component in it. But it's no different in a pre-drywall. You just don't have the interior walls covered up. You get to see them behind the scene, which to me, that's probably going to be one of the most important inspections that you can do for your client, is the pre-drywall. It's charge for it, guys. Don't back off and say, this is, easier than doing a home. No, it's not. Once you get in there and writing your report, you come up with your own report form, because you don't have to use a TREC report on pre-pour or pre-drywall inspection. You can come up with your own on those. Use your TREC report on the final. But, are you really qualified, do you think, because you have a TREC, Texas Real Estate Commission home inspector license? You're qualified to step out there and do these type of inspections? Yeah, it depends on your experience and your qualifications. I can tell you, if there's ever a complaint filed against you, the first thing that TREC's going to ask you is, are you competent? Competence can be defined by knowledge, by education, by your certifications. So there's a lot of things that come into that. And, if you ever think you might get questioned on that, or if what house you inspected ever went to court, those attorneys are going to ask you, what are your qualifications? And if you say, well, I'm a TREC home inspector, well, does that qualify you to do new construction, pre-pours, or pre-drywall inspection? It doesn't limit you from doing them, but does it qualify you to do them? That's the question. And, that'd be a question you may have to answer someday. So I encourage you to get qualified to do it. And how do you do that? Get education, keep taking classes on it, find you a mentor that can take you out and train you in the field on how to do these things. And by the way, I am planning on trying to get together with around the state and do some half-day training classes on pre-drywall inspection. So, if you're in an area that you belong to one of the local chapters, and you have a builder that would let us come out with a group of people and spend, 3 or 4 hours at a home site going through it, then give me a call, and I've got the class approved. You can get your TREC continued 8 hours for it, and I'll come out and teach you some more one-on-one, and try to help answer those questions for you. I know it's a popular class. People have always asked for those. We did it at conferences a few times. Very well attended. I mean, one of the most attended classes we've ever done. But, next thing is, what are you doing to become qualified? Are you taking any of those classes? Well, I can tell you that the last 2 times that we had conventions up at Bryan College Station for TPREIA-InterNACHI, we taught classes on building, on mechanical, plumbing, and we got one more coming up this year. I think maybe electrical this year. I have to go back and look at my notes. Anyway, we have been teaching classes that teach you how to go in and look in the code book, learn how to find these answers in the code, and kind of get you prep ready to go out and take your code cert test. So I hope some of you have. I know I've gotten a few emails from a few people, very few, and I've been surprised at that. They said, hey, I passed my code test. Now I am a certified building and code inspector. Awesome. That's great. So what type of reports do you use? You have to come up with your own. I mean, it can be a simple checklist, where you go down and say, well, I found anchor bolts missing here, yonder, put some pictures in, and just do that. Now, how much do you charge? That's again going to be your decision as a business owner. We always charge according to square footage of the house. Same way we do on a resale home. We charge the same thing on each of the phases that we go out. My time was valuable. They got a benefit from my experience and knowledge and sharing it. So, I would say go out and do that. Someone's asked me, what code book do you recommend? Your code test can be taken on any of the code series. I mean, codes change. The International Residential Code changes every 3 years. And you can go in and take your depending on which test you want to take, if you want to take it on the 2015 IRC code, you buy the 2015 IRC code books. When you buy that, I would tell you get the combination code book that has all the codes in it as far as residential, and you get one that has a commentary. Commentary will help explain. You read a code, and then the people that write the code will give you a definition of what this actually means to you. So those commentary actually help you a big way. So, you know, whenever you decide to take your test, if you're gonna do it 3 years from now, you might jump up and take the 2021 code book and do that. That's what we taught at the last convention in Bryan College Station, was on the 2021 IRC. So, yeah, it's up to you. I would say go with the newest one, because each year there's a few changes. They may relocate a code here, there, and yonder, may read identical to what it did the previous years, but they just put it in a different location. So, yeah, what do you charge? Like I said, charge what you do on your regular home inspection. Yeah, if you charge $400 for a 2,000-foot house, charge $400 each phase inspection. So instead of making $400, you're making $1,200. So, you know, it's up to you. Just base it out, you know, whatever your market will bear you to do. So if you haven't already done so, please do it now. Texas inspectors, put your license number, your full name, and your city in the chat box. If you've already done this, you don't need to do it a second time. But if you haven't done it, if you joined us a little late or something, be sure you put in now. But as I said, there won't be certificates issued for this class, but you will be able to go into the TREC website here in just probably a week time and look and verify that this class was posted for your continued ed hours. So let me just say thank you for attending the class with us. I appreciate all your time and effort. And my contact information, you can email me. Just the simplest one is just paul@internachi.org. And I will get your email, and I'll be glad to answer the question for you, help you guys and gals any way I can. As always, it's a pleasure to have you with us tonight. Take care, God bless, and we'll see you again soon.